greetings to each of you, and welcome to the Shakedown, a podcast about corrections, by corrections, and for corrections. I am your host, Aaron Dawson. Good to be with you yet again. Hope that you are enjoying life, living it to the fullest, and embracing this career field and looking to grow, looking to move forward, move up. You know, when I started in the corrections field, I knew that I just didn't want to be a line officer. I don't know if there's anything wrong with being a line officer, but I had a drive to. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to matter. So first up, I wanted to be a supervisor, and if I had the opportunity to move up in the supervision area, I wanted to do that. And then as I did that, as I moved up and was a shift supervisor, I wanted to keep growing, keep going. I wanted to, be a lieutenant, and if the opportunity presented itself to be a jail administrator, to be a warden. And I had the privilege and the opportunity to serve as a warden for 5 years. And I'll tell you, there were some things about that position, the jail administrator, the jail commander, the warden position. There were some things that I thought I knew. There were some things that I thought I was prepared for. And there were a host of things that I didn't know. And there were a host of things that I was not prepared for. And so to those of you that are, maybe you are currently a jail administrator, and you're looking at this job in front of you and think, man, there's so much here that I'm responsible for and that I don't know. For some of you, maybe that you're looking at, man, one day I'd like to be in that position. I want to be able to move up in the ranks. So what do I need to be prepared for? Well, that is the point of this episode. The point of this episode is to present you with some information from a current jail administrator about some things that you should know, you need to know, things you need to prepare for. Not just from me here. I served as a warden in the state of Alabama, but speaking of someone who serves as a jail administrator in another state, I have the privilege to have Major Deann Cash from Forsyth County, Georgia, on the podcast today. Always enjoy opportunity to talk to Major Cash, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say about this topic. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into this interview. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned earlier, good to have Major Cash with us from Forsyth County. I had the opportunity, and I will say it, a privilege to know this lady. Good grief. It's been at least 3 or 4 years, if not longer than that.
Mhm.
Time flies, as they say, time flies when you're having fun. That's what we'll say. So that's what that is. But good to have you. Good to have you back on the podcast with us. I think this will be the third time that we've had the opportunity to speak on the podcast. But one of the things I wanted to really focus on this conversation is it seems for most agencies around the country, I know not always, but that there is a high turnover rate amongst our jail staff. And the conversations that I've had with people, the pressure that has put on is that when it comes time to promote a supervisor, whether it's a corporal, a sergeant, a first line supervisor, your experience level is a lot less. When I started in my corrections career, my corporal had, oh, good grief, 10, 11, 12 years experience. The sergeant had 15, 16 years experience. So I knew that if I was ever going to wear stripes, it was going to be a minute. It wasn't going to be a year or 2 years. Well, you keep moving that forward. That means that when it comes to an administrative position, that there is a high likelihood that there's going to be some folks that are asked or put in for an administrative position, a jail administrator, warden, jail commander, whatever the title, and may have had 3, 4, maybe less years experience. And so they're going to have a lot of question marks in their mind, and probably some things they don't know that needs to be a question. And so I was curious, being that you are a jail administrator, what were some things that maybe that you didn't have a clue about when you were moving into that position that you've learned, or maybe some things you wish somebody would have given you a heads up about and said, hey, you might need to pay attention to that, to to guide some thinking, if you have someone, maybe they're already in that position, or they're thinking one day I might like to go to that position. Some things that maybe we'll start with some things that you had no clue about prior, that you didn't learn until, ta-da, it's your circus and it's your monkeys.
Well, the first thing you should know if you're going to be the jail administrator is you have to know everything, because that's what everybody thinks.
No pressure, no pressure.
You know, they automatically think. And I just passed my 38th year in law enforcement, and if most agencies are like, and I've always worked for sheriffs, maybe one or two ever had a chief or a sheriff that's ever walked into a jail. Right. So when they say you're the jail administrator, they expect you to have all the answers, because they for sure don't. Right. You know, so it's like, wow, you know, and so you have to learn how to walk that fine line of, no, we can't do that. No, can't do that. No, trying to keep you out of federal court here, Sheriff. So you've got to have that broad knowledge of just being able to say, we can't do that, especially if you have bosses that don't know. And it don't mean they're bad bosses. It just means they have picked you to go in that position because they have the faith that you do know the answers.
Right.
And the best thing I found, even growing up in a sheriff's office when I became the jail administrator, was get a list and get a list of people you can call. Just because you call another jail administrator don't mean that, you know, you're not good for the job. It just means have your people that you can call and ask questions. And even after all this time, I have a network. Good grief, I was asking you something when before we started this. I'll call Tate, I'll call Roberts out. There is a whole network, and you've got to have that network. It doesn't mean you're a bad administrator. It just means you're willing to learn, no matter who it is. I have several friends that have never worked in the jail. They were a major somewhere else, and they said, okay, go run the jail. And they're like, what the heck? Because they think all you got to do is know how to manage people. No, this is the worst place not to know what you're doing, because you're going to end up in federal court.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So if when I leave here and someone takes my place, I'm hoping they have all that tools, and I hope they have a laundry list of contacts that they can call, and even if they can talk it out. Well, what about this? What about that? Just have a network of people that you can talk it out with. Play devil's advocate. It's okay if you don't know the answer. It's okay if you don't know, but find and learn.
Yeah. So so how long have you been serving as a jail administrator?
I was jail administrator at Clayton County for 2 years prior to me retiring, and I've been up here almost 7, so almost 9 years.
Okay. All right. So in those and 9 years, and then also having the opportunity to see 2 different agencies, you know, I don't care if they're 2 counties right alongside each other, which from what I understand yours are not, but if you've got 2 counties right alongside each other, they're going to be diametrically different in operation, size, layout, etc. So in the time that you have been serving as a jail administrator, what has been you feel like your greatest challenge as far as just the position of an administrator that you face?
I have 125 people here that work for me, and I have 125 different personalities, and I'm supposed to know how to deal with 125 different personalities to motivate them and get them to want to come to work and realize that they need a job. And you know, you got a PhD in this, and I don't know anybody that has the answer to keep these generation we deal with now focused on this is a very adult job. I think that is the challenge. This is an adult job. This isn't, it is a critical job. You are responsible for these people's lives in every way.
Yes.
And sometimes I want to run my head through a wall trying to get them to understand how serious of a job this is.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I always told my supervisors, if you come in my office and I'm closing my head in a filing cabinet drawer, just leave me alone. I'll be fine in a minute. It'll be okay.
Just come back later.
I'm working through something. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
So in dealing with personnel, and I'll tell you, I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. That when I was promoted to corporal, I got my first set of stripes. I was on night shift. The day shift sergeant that we relieved, Sergeant Sparks, he had retired a full career, decided he wanted to stay at home. So then he went and applied at the jail, and so he worked 26 years at the county jail, retired as a lieutenant. But anyway, he was the day shift sergeant. So when I come in, those shiny stripes on my sleeve, brand new, come in, and he shook my hand, congratulated me, and he said, "I'll give you one piece of advice." All right, I'm ready, Sarge. And he had a full head of white hair. And he said, "You see this right here?" Yes, sir. He said, "The inmates didn't put it there." And I laughed. Going, "Oh, that's cute." But I have since learned that he was 150% correct.
150%. Yes. In these positions, and I know and your jail administrator knows, now you're here and you're more political than you've ever been. All, all the way around, because now you're the head of this. And
Yes.
Sometimes you have to eat crow. Sometimes you do everything you can to take up for your people, and then you still have to eat crow because you work for a politician that
Yes.
I tell them, I'm like, you do know that these bonding companies are the reason I have to take Ambien at night,
Yes.
because they all got the sheriff on speed dial.
That's right. Yes.
And so that's something else that I struggle with, because I want to take it from my people. I want to be right all the time. I want to be backed up 100% of the time. And I'm not sitting in his seat, and you have to learn how to say, okay, I just got to let it go. He's doing what he's got to do. This is his, what he feels is best, but it still can eat you up inside. Dang it.
Yeah.
We were right. We were right. We were right. And so it's hard to try to take up for your people sometime and then still have to eat crow, but you got to learn to fight which battles you want to fight wholeheartely.
Yes. Yes. I can honestly say there have been multiple times where I was sitting in the chief or the sheriff's office. They'd be asking me about doing this or doing that. And, and I would emphatically, my top of the hill statement here, we are not going to do that. And then my brain would catch up and go, unless you tell us to. And then I assume that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. It always comes to that disclaimer, unless you tell me to.
That's right. Exactly. Then I'm with it. Yes.
And the worst is when you have to go back to the public or to someone else, to a judge. But you just have to learn how to let that go.
Yes. And I will say that, even my experience prior to corrections, and then, being in the ministry in the process of that, I thought I had a good grasp of working with people. I would never consider myself a political person. As a matter of fact, I would denounce that if given the opportunity. The reason I was in law enforcement is I'm not political. It's black and white. It's no gray. It's cut and dry. It's obvious. And then you move into that administrative position, and boy, there's a whole lot more gray than there is black and white. And having to adjust to, like you said, I've got this officer that wants to understand why this policy was put in, and if I didn't agree with it, but it came down from above me, I have to spin it in a positive way that we can do this. I get done with this officer, supervisor comes to the door fussing about something that I can't control. Phone rings, it's inmate so-and-so's mama wanting to know why, her baby is dealing with whatever, and that jumping between, you go to you go to get in your vehicle at the end of the day, and the bail bondsman standing out front on the phone, they see you and they want to come you're going to fix this problem they have that
Right.
I can't fix all. Anyway, the
Right.
that political side of it, I will say that was for me, that was probably the hardest adjustment. And I think primarily because I wasn't prepared for it mentally. I come in thinking very practically,
Yes.
policy, schedules,
Mhm.
staffing, finances.
Yeah, that is a very small part of what you do as a jail administrator. My job is to keep the sheriff Freeman out of federal court, bottom line.
Right.
But it also is to keep people going across the street to his office. If we can fix it here, why send them across the street? Let's fix it here. And and a lot of times people don't like that work for you, but they don't understand the big picture, because to them, that they just don't get why we're playing this, why we're, you why there's the gray area. Because if we can fix it, why do we want them over there complaining?
Certainly. Certainly. Yes. The playing for the long game rather than I want to get through today with as little turmoil as possible.
Yes.
Well, if we have a little bit of turmoil today and we can fix it, that
Yeah.
saves it from there being a new policy next week.
Exactly.
That's our fault because we
That's
didn't
right.
fix it. Yeah.
Right, because all
So
policies have somebody's name on it.
yes, that was one of the things I would often say to the sheriff, when we would talk about things, and especially if it was a policy that wanted to come in, and I said, well, that's probably going to end up in a lawsuit. And if I was going to pick a lawsuit to have my name on it to be remembered forever, I want to pick a better one than that one.
That's right.
I want it to be a great one.
Right. Exactly.
Well, if you had someone that is, let's say they're listening to this conversation and maybe they've just been promoted, or they think, okay, this may be something I'd like to move into. For those of you that may not be from the southern part of the country, we'll throw a bless your heart out there right there, just so, and you can do some Google on that and figure out what that means later. That's fine. But if you could give them one piece of advice going into this that has held true for you, what would that piece of advice be?
That if you love corrections, if you love your job, that it'll be okay and you'll find a way. I mean, I am here still working after all these years because I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be, so we can have Pups with Purpose, so we can have these inmate programs, so we can help these deputies move up in their career. If you love it, you will find a way. You will learn how to let it roll off your back because you want to make a difference in that jail, and you have to love it. You have to love corrections, and if you do, and that is your career, then everything will be okay. You'll find a way. You find your network of friends, whether it's here in Georgia or in Alabama or wherever. I don't know anybody that's at our level that won't take the time to talk to you about anything.
Right.
And find those people, and just know that if you love it, you will make a difference in these people's lives.
Yes. Awesome. Well, Mr. Cash, I do thank you very much for your time today, and I will say in some cases probably hard-earned wisdom, but we'll just throw it out as wisdom in general, that you're willing to share with the listeners. So, as always, an honor and a privilege to have you on, and we will have to make that happen again sometime real soon.
Thanks, Aaron. Nice to see you.
Awesome information from someone who has years and may we say decades of experience in the industry. Fantastic. Often people have either one of two views about being a jail administrator. One, they think it's so simplistic and it's so easy, anybody can do it. So, sure, just whatever. Or they have the other side of it, like it's some magical position that there's a book of spells or elixirs that you have to be able to do this job and do it well. But I love the way that Major Cash broke it down for us and made it very simplistic. Awesome information. I hope that it's beneficial to you. Well, guys, I appreciate you being with us on this another episode. Check us out on YouTube, the Shakedown Podcast. Check it out. Find the episodes that you really enjoy listening to. Hit like, hit subscribe, leave some comments. All of those things help us tremendously move this forward, move the information, move the podcast, get it out there to where we can spread the word that corrections is an honorable profession, a profession that's worth being proud of, that's worth investing in, and worth answering the call to do. And so, guys, get that information, get that word out there, especially if you felt a connection with the information, felt it impact you. Share it with those that you know also may need it and may not be exposed to the information. Well, guys, as always, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you. And until the next time, stay sharp, stay safe, stay vigilant. Godspeed.